Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Robin, that was Blair. He's about to play with his toy, so I apologize for any squeaking you're about to hear. But I was like, you know what? I haven't really done any wrap-ups this year, and I haven't really been talking about the things I've been reading, which is weird because this is a book channel. Anyway, I'm actually here to talk about some of the arcs I've had the pleasure of reading this year. And by the time you're watching this, all of them are already out. I'm so terrible at this. So yeah, let's just get into it from order of least to most favorite. First on my list is Aletti by Allie Millington. This is a middle grade story about a 12-year-old boy named Ernest, and he is kind of having some issues. He doesn't really want to talk with his mom about it or his dad. His dad is a little absent, and his brothers, I think he has a sister. His brother and sister are just teenagers doing their own thing. Ernest's mom really is trying to talk to him and be like, what's wrong? Talk to me. Because there's a big bad secret that happened in the family that nobody really likes to talk about or allude to. And one day, Ernest's mom just goes missing. And Ernest is like, I don't know what to do. Where did she go? Why would she leave us? And enters Aletti, who is a typewriter. He used to belong to Ernest's mom and held all of her stories, and that's how he kind of learned to speak. He starts talking to Ernest through kind of typing out to him and just kind of giving clues about what his mother's thoughts were prior to her leaving. And then Ernest also gains a friend because he doesn't really have a whole lot of friends. He's very quiet, he's shy. And then on top of it, he's just like, I don't want to talk to people. So then he reluctantly makes a friend, this girl who owns a pawn shop where Aletti was accidentally sold. Ernest tries to get him back, and the girl helps him get him back. And on this mystery, trying to find his mom. I ended up giving this a 2.75 stars. The whimsicalness of the talking typewriter just didn't land for me. And I feel like the story could have been told differently even without Aletti being there, through letters or something. But even the reason for the mom leaving was, I was just like, that's why you left? And finding out what the backstory of this family is and the big bad thing that nobody wants to talk about. I feel like had we known up front what the big bad was, maybe it would have made me more sympathetic towards any of the characters, but it didn't. And then once I found out, I was just annoyed at the mom mostly. And then I was also annoyed at the father because you just checked out of this family. And so again, this isn't for me. It was a middle grade, but I don't know. I just felt like there were some plot holes, and there was some element that was missing that just didn't land for me. The next book that lowest to highest was Pardon My Frenchie by Farah Rashan. I ended up giving this 3.25 stars. I have previously read from Farah Rashan. I read The Boyfriend Project and that series, and I liked all of them actually. I think I gave them either high 3s or 4s. And this one, I thought I was really gonna like it because hello, a Frenchie. I love dogs. And it just, nope. It was cool, it was fine, but there were just elements that I didn't like. So let me tell you what it's about. There's this girl, I forget her name, and she runs a doggy daycare called Barkingham Palace. She's also taking care of her younger twin sisters because their parents have passed. And so she's really focused on just making sure that her and her sisters are secure and her business is secure. So she does not have time for a man. And then you have this other guy, don't remember his name either, but he is a retired Army dude, and he comes back to Louisiana, to New Orleans, and to set down some roots. One, to take care of his grandmother who raised him, and decided to open up a bar with his friend and business partner that is going to cater to vets so that they don't feel so displaced once they leave service life. Her name is Ashanti. So, and the guy's name is Thaddeus. So Thad ends up buying the piece of property that Ashanti has been eyeing for a very long time to increase her business. And she goes not only did he buy her property, but he is this surly dude who owns one of her favorite customers. And so he's taking care of the dog. Him and the dog don't get along. But the dog and Ashanti's dog have like a little relationship, a little kindling together. And so they become social media stars. She has to end up working with Thad, being like, hey, can I borrow your dog? So I can kind of profit off this viral moment that our dogs are having. And she's like, oh, also, it could help you too. First of all, when Ashanti and Thaddeus meet, Thad is like super dick to her. And I'm just like, okay, why are you so mean? I mean, I don't love that you hate dogs. But also, why are you just mean to her off break? All throughout this, there is chemistry between the two of them. And Thad is like, listen, I'm going to admit it. I know that I'm attracted to you. You know you're attracted to me. What's the problem? And instead of Ashanti just saying like why she can't date someone right now, she's just like, I can't. And I'm just like, girl, please just talk to him and tell him why you're not in a space to date him right now. You have all of these moments where they're thrown together and they need to interact. And so like the tension between them is simmering. And then it's a happily ever after, so figure it out. However, while I was not entirely enchanted with this particular story, there is going to be a second book focusing on another potential couple, and I'm interested enough to read it. Again, I didn't hate it. It was a little better than average, but I'm hoping that I have a better time with the other couple. Next, I have The House on Biscayne Bay by Chanel Clayton. This was more of a historical mystery type story. You have these two families separated by, I want to say, maybe 10 or 20 years, and tragedy strikes the same house twice, almost in a very eerily similar manner. And in the first timeline, you have a husband and wife who are moving from New York down to Miami to kind of establish themselves in the growing social scene in the 1910s, I believe. And so you have them trying to establish themselves amongst people who are already there, and they're just like, we're tired of these people from up north coming down and trying to claim our land. Tragedy strikes at the house, and you're just like, what happened here? How did the woman of the house die? It seems all very mysterious. And then you fast forward 10, 20 years, and a girl is coming from Cuba to live with her sister because her parents have just died. And when she arrives at the house with her sister and her sister's husband, she gets kind of a chilly reception from her sister mostly. And you can tell that there's some familial tension there. Like, you don't understand why her and her sister are not getting along. And it takes a little while to uncover that. But at the same time, tragedy strikes again in a somewhat similar fashion, and you're like, who did it? Is there a ghost? Is something haunting this house? Is there a connection with the people? What's going on? And I had a good time with it. I was like interested, intrigued. It was a little slow at times, a lot of times, and you were just like, okay, well, let's get this moving. But it gave me a little bit of Mexican Gothic vibes where you're just like, something is weird with the house, but you're not quite sure, but like not quite Mexican Gothic. Like, we're not talking mushrooms here. I really was invested in getting to the bottom of things and finding out what happened. I also read Thirst by Mariana Yukshuk. That I gave a 3.75. It was one translated from this Argentinian author. It's set in Argentina in dual timelines. The first timeline is, I want to say, like 1830s, and then the second timeline is more present day. In the past timeline, you have this woman who has left Europe under duress, and she's a vampire. But you have this woman, she leaves because people have started to attack her and her family, and they're like, we no longer want you here. We think that you guys are monsters. So she hightails it out of there. She makes her way on a boat and ends up in Argentina, where she is trying to like blend in, because obviously that was the problem where she was in Europe. that she was standing out. And so she wants to blend in, but like she also has this overwhelming thirst for blood, this bloodlust. And it's this very dark, gothic story about like her desires and her trying to quell her desires, not just for blood, but like for sex and companionship. And what does that mean? Then we flash forward a couple of 100 years to present day, and you have this other woman who is dealing with grief and the slow demise of her mother, like her trying to take care of her son and just exist in this space and time. She's feeling a pull towards this this kind of abandoned looking crypt, but she doesn't know why she feels the pull. And like you find out why she's very attracted to it. I think for me, it would have been better if you had had the present day timeline first and then the past timeline, only because the past timeline was more compelling. And I think by the time you got through the first timeline and you made it to present day, it kind of lost some of its luster. You kind of already knew what the attraction and draw was, while the connections between the two were a little shaky and a little tenuous. You were just like, okay, I can kind of see where this is going. Also, it just wasn't as interesting as the first timeline. Like, you really felt the attraction and lust and the concern that the previous timeline characters had. Whereas the second one was just like, yeah, you were with her in her grief, but you felt a little bit more attached and removed from it. But I would be curious to read more from her. Also, I'm very surprised at myself for liking something with vampires, because I do not typically like vampires. I don't know, something about them feels very cheesy and I don't like it. But I like this one. And then my most highest rated arc that I've read was Lost Ark Dreaming by Sui Davies Okumbawa. I gave this 4.25 stars. I have read from him before. I read Son of the Storm and the second book in that series, Warrior of the Winds. Love Son of the Storm. Did not love Warrior of the Winds so much. But this one is a cli-fi novella set in future Nigeria. There have been climate changes which have made rains increase, which made water levels rise. So now people are living in these large towers. The poorer people obviously live in lower towers where they are basically underwater. And then obviously the more affluent and important people live at the top. They can see the sun. And then you've got everybody in between. They have these predators which live in the water. They're always trying to get into these structures, trying to attack the people that live here. And so one day there's an attack on one of the buildings, and a police agent and an investigator kind of go down to try to figure out what's going on. So they've got to go to the lower levels. They've got to go to the slums and see what's going on and figure out this mystery. Who tried to attack the building? How did they get in? And as they are doing this, they uncover a lot of truths about who these predators and attackers really are and how they aren't that much different from the people living in these structures. And I just thought it was a really interesting one look at the future of a potential climate crisis. Like, obviously, you know that the people with the most money are going to try to just make their lives better and don't give a shit about the people at the bottom. But it also talked about like ancestral knowledge, knowing where you come from. It gave me the feels of The Deep by River Solomon, where it was like that the mermaid had all the history and knowledge of the people who had been tossed overboard from slave ships, and they carried all that pain. And like, it reminded me a lot of that. And I just really enjoyed it. It was short, it was sweet. It kind of leaves you with some things to think about, and it may not end in like a nice, pretty bow, but if you don't mind that, you know, it's fine. But yeah, I had a good old time with it. And those were all of the arcs that I have amassed over the past couple of months and have not talked about until now. So sorry. But if you're interested in any of those, definitely check them out because they're all out. Don't recommend Aletti. That one's gonna be a no. But everything else, I say give it a whirl. It might be your jam. It may not have been like my favorite jam, but it may be yours. And that's all I have for you guys today. Have you guys read any new releases that you've really loved lately? Let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's share our loves down below in the comments. And until next time, bye.